Hello and welcome to the Knitty Stew podcast. My name is Leanne. I am the Knitty Stew. Stew is short for stewardess. So if you're looking for slow cooked beef recipes, this is not what you'll find here. I am a Canadian flight attendant and a knitting enthusiast, and this is my YouTube channel where I get to combine those two things that I do in my life, and I bring you on the road with me and also get to share my knitting journey with you as well. So welcome. And thank you so much for everyone who continues to show up, and for anyone who's new here checking me out. I really can't express my gratitude enough for this community that's growing. It is so genuine, and I'm overwhelmed by the way this continues to motivate me at all times, especially when there's IROPS in my life. IROPS, aviation term, irregular operations. This podcast gives me motivation just to keep on going, keep trucking. So I haven't had some greatest of outcomes in my knitting life, and also today I had a bit of a curveball as well. I had planned to record this for a week or so, about a couple weeks I've been thinking about it, and last night I received a notification that crew scheduling changed what my pairing or my trip was going to look like, which thankfully did end up getting me back here to Edmonton, where I planned on filming today, but it was going to be 4 hours later than had anticipated. So today was a bit of a whirlwind, just to put that out there right off the bat. And also, since about 4 p.m. yesterday, our cat Quinn went outside onto the porch and hasn't come back. So I'm super distracted about that, and yeah, please send your thoughts our way. And yeah, but knitting, as it always does, it'll get me through all the things and the challenges. Hi there, this is future editing Leanne with an update on Quinn the cat. Happy ending. She was found safe and sound, or decided to return to us from another dimension. We're not really sure. My husband texted me, that was the best thing to wake up to this morning, that Quinny had been sleeping in our bathroom linen closet for like over 24 hours. It was so weird. So my husband was settling down for the night, and the other cat was, Allie, was like meowing for a while, but they started to settle down, and all of a sudden it got really quiet and they heard like a do sound. And he opened our bedroom door, and they're sitting right there was Quinn, looking at him like, hey, what's up? Kind of hungry. And he's like, Quinny, what are you doing? Where have you been? And that's what was up. So very unusual behavior. So happy to be able to report that. And when I get home, I will be looking into that bathroom closet for the door to Narnia, where Quinny must have gone. Okay, back to the video. Bye-bye. And yeah. So thanks for being here. With that out of the way, I'll let you know that I am recording in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is the the province's capital city. I am here on Treaty 6 territory. It is the traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others, whose histories and languages and cultures continue to make this a very vibrant community here. Welcome to this episode. On the flight plan today, I have 4 finished objects to share with you. I have 2 works in progress. I'll intersperse some footage from my Edmonton excursion today, and I also have 1 very special acquisition, as well as maybe a little chat about some knitting plans, upcoming things on the queue. So I hope you'll cozy in, maybe grab your knits, and let's get to it. First of all, I cannot wait to tell you about my finished object number 1, my most successful finished object this year, I want to say. What I'm wearing is my Always vest. This is a design by Daku. I'm just gonna show you the showstopper right off the bat. It's this textured pattern on the side panels of this vest. Anna Daku is also known as the Bluebird Box on Instagram Ravelry. And I made this vest thinking about how light it could be if I made it with Nuttiden. So I used Nuttiden Menning and 1 strand of silk mohair knitting for Olive in Cognac. And it is light. I think it in total weighs 175 grams. Yay! Super light. And I made it to my liking, which I'm learning to do. So some people start off and they just kind of go for it with garments. I was very much an accessories knitter with some cardigans here and there, a few garment items. But now, thanks to this bag, I have my magic numbers, I think, as Andrew Mowry calls them. So this vest is to be cropped, and I was knitting away on it. I knit the ribbing in a US 9 circular, which is a 5.5 millimeter, and then the body US 10, which is a 6 millimeter in the round. And the pattern repeat, I continued to repeat it, I think it's 3 times. All my notes and everything will be on Ravelry. And because my preferred measurement from my hem to the underarm is 13 inches, I've learned. And so I tried it on. I had gone quite a ways and gone through the repeat to where the pattern says. It is a paid pattern, so I don't want to give too much information away, but yeah, what I mostly wanted to say is that I modified the length so that I felt good and comfy. And the other thing I changed slightly was the arms. It is to have 2x2 ribbing, and I just kind of like the look of it looks kind of like it almost looks like an I-cord. So instead of doing ribbing, it's a little bit narrower than the 2x2. And I think it turned out really well. This pattern was not, it was not designed using Nuttiden or unspun yarn. It was actually designed using Crux Fibers, Brittany from Whitehorse. That's her line of yarn, and it, I think I ended up really liking the way that this fabric felt. I started actually when I was gauge swatching, I was using the Canadian unspun that I got from Crux Fibers as well, but it was a little too dense. That unspun is very different than the Nuttiden. It almost has like a felted feel to it. So it was just too thick. So I went back and I'm very pleased that I've used some of my Nuttiden. I have some more to go, but like I said, it only is 175 grams, the total weight. And I kind of wanted to let you know, I think it was, Nuttiden comes in like plates, and I believe I used 1.75 plates. Yeah, that makes sense. 175 grams, 1.75, yeah. So that is my always vest. My second finished object I don't have with me, but I just wanted to discuss a success here. My son, in my last podcast, I was on the 4th time as the charm for my son's toque. The first hat I made for him, I used Malabrigo, which is soft and wonderful, and he did love it. And I used the Cambridge watch pattern, Cambridge watch cap pattern, and it stretched out. So I tried to fix it by gently felting it, and I definitely didn't gently felt it. I turned it into a flower pot holder. Yep. And then my second attempt was too tight on my son. The third one, it also fit him, but it grew again. I'm happy to say that the feedback on the 4th one, he said, "Hat is good, fits me nice, but the wool could be softer. Thank you, Mom." So yes, I did use Peruvian Highland wool, and the magic numbers for this one, I used my tried and true on the Sea Train hat, which is a free pattern from Espace Tricot, and I used a US 6, and I cast on 88 stitches, and then I followed the pattern. I did the length of the hat until I started decreases. For this final one that worked was 9.5 inches before I started decreasing. So, yay. Finally got a toque, and he still needed it because it has spring has not arrived here in Alberta. It was -3 here today, which was lovely. That is, I wrote that down, 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was nice-ish, but we have had like another blast of winter down in Calgary where I live. and the snow and the wind, it was, yeah, we're ready to see some flowers. Let's just put it that way. And I'm one that loves winter and I don't mind cozying down, but oh man, yeah. Spring, come on spring. I'm summoning it. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So my third finished object, not a happy story there. I tried making the Saturday Shrug by Jackie Rose of the Caddy Jacks podcast. Now there is probably no need for introduction. There's the Saturday Shrug and then the super bulky Sunday Shrug. And there's like 560 some odd projects. So most of you have probably heard of it and seen a lot of it on Instagram. So I jumped on the bandwagon and I began it. It started out looking so lovely, but as my guru Wayne Dyer says, you do not fail, you only produce results, and you have the right to learn and grow from any results that you produce. So thanks to Wayne for that, because I definitely learned and grew from this failure. So what ended up happening is I cast on for the amount of stitches that it says in the pattern. It is a free pattern. And so I cast on 142 stitches. And I've made 20 plus cowls, neck warmers in my life. And my ideal numbers for, you know, the width I like of a collar is between 100 and 110, 111 stitches for worsted weight. And I just was like, no, I'm sure this is gonna be good. And I knew I should have like just listened to that, and I didn't, so I learned that. When I put it on, when it was done, I had blocked it, and the yarn that I'd used was very special. I got it from PEI, from Belfast Mini Mills, and then I used some old stash Lang Yarns Mill Calori, and it grew, and it was already too many stitches for my neck, but when I put it on, it just like flopped, and I was like, okay, so it was going to be another felting situation, and that is actually what it is. I renamed it the Catterday shawl, or shrug, because it now is the pillow where my cat Allie sits and looks out the front window. So she has a rather expensive little area to sit and look out the window. And I did learn, as you know, we need to do with our knitting, I learned that I need to trust my gut. So yes, I love, you know, trends, and I follow them, and if they're good, they're good, right? And this was fine, but I also did know from my experience that that would have been way too many stitches for something that I'm gonna like and wear. And I when I bought that yarn at PEI in Belfast, the reason I got it right off the bat was like from seeing some samples of colorwork hats that they had on display by Simone, Sand and Sky Creations. And I should have just like listened, like that's what the yarn wanted to be. And I pushed that. On the positive side, I do want to turn that around, is that I learned a really cool technique called the alternate cable cast on. I didn't do the cast on recommended, but I learned the alternate cable cast on, which looked really great with Knit One Purl One. Also learned that it's you know what, trying to rip it out. In fact, it was quite impossible because I had also used a strand of Rowan Kidsale K's and the mohair with the Samoyed fur, which was the yarn I used, and yeah, it would not rip out, so that sucked. I did do the cast off recommended in the pattern, the tubular bind off, which was demonstrated wonderfully by Jackie on her YouTube tutorials related to the Saturday Shrug, so that was cool. Anyways, I do have, you know, some regrets about that, but you know, it's part of the knitting journey, and that's how it goes. Doesn't always work out great, but my cat's pretty happy about it. I needed a win after that, and I'd say these are the Wild Feather mitts by Cecily, Glowik, Macdonald. They're just some fingerless mitts. And I shouldn't say just fingerless mitts because I love them. This pattern is from a book that my sister got me for my birthday, I think in 2020. The book itself, I think it's number 2 by Making. Yeah, it's fauna. There's some lovely, lovely stuff in this book, and I love this this mitten pattern. The texture is so simple, and when I looked up the projects on Ravelry, I was like, yes, I need to make these. There it is. Great picture. Sorry if my voice gets muffled when I hold up the book there. Pattern was super quick, super easy. The other successful part of this, these finished objects. Also, I'm loving my nails. I got them done in chrome, but they're like kind of an orangey gold. Thought it looked kind of springy. Took a long time. It took her an hour and 50 minutes to do them. And I sat and watched like 3 or 4 episodes of Blue Bloods that was playing on the TV at the salon when I was getting my nails done. And then I had weird dreams, but Tom Selleck is so serious in that show. I really like it. I'm like way late to that party too, but I mean, I sat there and watched it while I had my nails done. Okay, back to the fiber story here. So this is what's left of the yarn I used, and it was actually my breed of the month, Shropshire. And it was natural undyed Shropshire from the Longway Homestead. And I decided I needed to dye it. And this colorway was not a fluke. I was going for this color. It's called Avocado, and I used Dharma dyes to get it. And it's kind of washed out a little bit. It's getting close to sunset, so it's really quite bright, but it's like, it's an avocado green. So I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, yay. That was after my Catterday shrug. And it was like, I needed a happy moment. So this was it. Yeah, there's just under 50 grams left in this ball. So, I mean, I could make another pair of these. They are quite thick. They're actually, I think it was supposed to be worsted weight, but I think this was actually listed as it's chunky. So there's, yeah, 105 grams, 175 yards, and I have 48 grams remaining in that ball. So yeah, so those are my wild feather mitts. So everything I talk about, I'll link below in the description area. And before I carry on with my works in progress, I think we'll stop here and I'll put the footage in from my journey in Edmonton today. Right off the bat, I need to send out a big, big thank you to this beautiful soul. This is my niece, Lisa, who lives in Edmonton. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have got any of this wonderful footage of E-Town. She just rolled with the punches. Even when I said I only had like 2.5 hours to gather all the footage, she picked me up curbside and we grabbed ourselves some coffees and we hit the road. Now, the challenge I faced on this particular overnight was that everything is very, very spread out. There are yarn shops all over Edmonton and area. I could only pick one because of the time constraints, so I ended up going out to Sherwood Park to see Statement Junkie. The owner, Andrea, and I had a serendipitous meeting on Instagram back in like 2017, 2018. We both tested one another's chunky knit patterns, and then we continued to follow one another on Instagram. And I found out later that she used to be a flight attendant. And then I actually had her partner and I believe her stepdaughter on a flight one time. Then I went to the Fiber Frolic in November and she was there, but our paths didn't cross. She went back to the store. So we finally met in person, and she's definitely like a kindred spirit. I had honestly never seen so many skeins of hedgehog fibers or Madelinetosh and Malabrigo in one place ever. Congratulations, Andrea. Your store is absolutely stunning, including a wonderful coffee bar and a seating area. And I love when people's dream to own a yarn shop comes true. She got the brick and mortar thing going. So wonderful to stop by and see this beautiful shop. Honestly, had time permitted, This is a city and an area of many yarn shops. I would have loved to have stopped in at Fiber Nook, which is in Edmonton. I've ordered from them before online. They're very friendly and have great selection. There's also Little Blue Fiber Studio and in and around Edmonton. So there's Yarn Divas in St. Albert, Cottage Crafts in Fort Saskatchewan, and Blackbird out in Leduc, which is just south of the city. And River City Yarns was a staple in town for a long, long time, but they have gone online only. I'm sure there's more shops, and there's obviously a lot of knitters in Edmonton and northern Alberta because there's plenty of yarn shops to tour around. However, I was on a short time frame, so Lisa and I had to head back into town because there was other stuff to see in Edmonton. We came back into Edmonton and went straight to the Big Boot. Now, Edmonton is known primarily for West Edmonton Mall. It is the second largest mall in North America. But a lesser known fact, it's also home to the world's largest cowboy boot. This magnificent monument towers 4 stories tall, 39 feet 4 inches to be exact. That's 12 meters. Way to go, Edmonton. Edmonton, the gateway to the north, the capital city of Alberta. It also actually happens to be my birthplace, but my family moved to Calgary about 18 months after I was born. There is definitely a hearty rivalry between Edmonton and Calgary, which is Alberta, the province's 2 major cities. We're only 3 hours apart. The current metro area population of Edmonton is 1,544,000 people. That's a lot of Edmontonians, they're called. Edmonton is actually one of the sunniest cities in Canada with an average of 325 sunny days. The Edmonton River Valley is the largest urban green space in North America. Some actually famous people who were born in Edmonton: Michael J. Fox, Tommy Chong, and Katie Lang. As a Calgarian, I know I'm supposed to make fun of Edmonton, or Deadmonton as we sometimes call it, but it's actually a lovely city. Not only is it home to the Ledge, the Legislature building, it is actually known for some amazing festivals and beautiful parks. It also has the University of Alberta, which is ranked one of the best universities in all of Canada. Also, I've been to a concert at Rogers Place, and it is absolutely amazing. And the place happens to be home of the Edmonton Oilers. So I hope you enjoyed my footage from the day in Edmonton. It is getting darker here by the minute, so I have to carry on, keep trucking. Next is my works in progress. The first one I wanted to show you is more of a hoe, more of a half-finished object, because I'm making a pair of socks. These are the Wintery Woods Socks by Nancy Wheeler. This is the first one I completed. I did the test knit for her. Nancy is known as Knit Sip Happy she has a YouTube channel. That's her name on Ravelry and Instagram, I believe. And big shout out to Nancy. She recently announced the Hexy Diamond Socks pattern was accepted and will be in the upcoming 52 Weeks of Socks book. Congratulations to Nancy on that. As a not big time sock knitter, I can attest to the fact that they're addictive. Her pattern, this one that I made here, was fantastic, and I'm still making it, so look at me overcoming second sock syndrome. I just put on the one sock. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll put a picture up, how about that? So this is sock number 2. I love the texture of this pattern. I've already spoken about it in this former podcast, but what I'm finding with sock number 2, I have fully embraced my inner magic looper. On the first one, I used my little 9-inch circulars, which I do love for sleeves and cuffs. Is this tilted? Sorry if it is, folks. Yeah, hopefully that's okay. And I also used some double pointed needles on that first sock. This time I'm doing the whole thing on my magic loop. And I'm loving it, and I think they're actually fitting a little bit even tighter because I'm a bit more consistent. They're toe up, and I use the Turkish cast on, and then I worked up to the gusset increases, and then it's a slip stitch heel after the German short rows too. So now I'm on, as far as the toe up sock goes, I'm on the home stretch, where you work the separate textured for the back of the sock, and then you just keep working this lovely repeat for the front. I just think it's a great pattern, and I'm proud of me for overcoming second sock syndrome, because I think for me, that's probably why I made so many hats, because you only need one. And my second work in progress is my attempt at summoning spring. I'm making the Swift hat. There you go. It's a pattern by Shannon Cook. It's from this book, Journey, which is a collaboration. There are two Vancouver Island designers, Jane Richmond and Shannon Cook. She's known as Very Shannon, and Jane Richmond also has some lovely patterns out there as well that I've made. And I've made the Swift hat before because it's really, really fun. I'll put a picture up. But this time I'm actually using the yarn that the pattern was designed with. Look at that red. So I'm using Quince & Co. Chickadee, and the colorway is called Peaks Fairy. And I think that's just like a showstopper color. It's a paid pattern. I think you don't need the book. I think you can just buy the pattern separately. And it just has some really cool lace details and some increasing, and then it's slouchy. When I've made it in the past, I've made it trying to just use one skein, but I mean, I have this, and I also have a second ball of the Quince & Co., which is still available. I looked online, and you can get Quince & Co. Chickadee at Art of Yarn. And it was, I still have the price tag. This is old stash. I'm really trying to bust my balls. Not doing that great, but I'm still trucking. I had the price tag on, it was $13, and I looked recently on Art of Yarn, it was $13.50. So, and the price tag is faded, so this is fairly old stash. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm gonna work on that. I believe it's gonna be for myself. That was, so that's what I've got on the needles. The other final thing I wanted to share was, if we're going to refer to busting my balls, I have been using quite a lot of grams. I do look forward to putting that the number out on maybe my next podcast of how many grams that I've knit through. It's a little bit more than I thought. I think I'm over like 1,100 grams, so that's like $110, which will be fun. Looking forward to that, because oh my gosh, it's hard to refrain myself. And having said that, I called into the Canadian Yarn Clause, which is a bypass for busting my balls, when Brittany of Crux Fibers had her most recent shop update. And I could only get one with my budget at this time, one absolutely fantastic special skein of this low mileage wool. It's called low mileage wool because it's 100% traceable. It is from, this is Mick. Now, Mick was a sheep, a wether by Sierra from Crocus Country Shepherdess in Caroline, Alberta. And he was her special guy. He tragically died last year, and this was spun from his last fleece. And I had to have it. It's absolutely delightful. It's 70% Mick, 20% wool, and 10% mohair. This is sport weight, and I'm gonna sit with Mick and really figure out what he wants to be. While it look and has a halo, this, I don't anticipate this having any type of a reaction on me. So even right on my forehead, I think Mick might want to be a hat or a pair of fingerless mitts. I do have a few patterns in my queue for sport weight, which is what this is. This has 258 yards. Medium gray is the color. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm also going to participate in Brittany's low mileage wool along. She has a thing going on all year long for if you know the mill where it came from, or you can trace its origins, that goes into her make along, I believe, not a knit along, make along. Other than that, I've been really, really good. I wanted to actually just talk a little bit about what's on the needles, or what might be on the needles soon. Like I said, spring has not arrived, but I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about some summer tops, and the first pattern I've got here and I'm ready to go, I just purchased it not too long ago, is Rattlesnake by Jamie Hoffman. I love the color work. Who doesn't need cactus? It's so cool. I might, again, I know my magic measurements, so I don't know if I'll necessarily make it that long. I might shorten it to the 13 inches, but that looks like a really fun pattern. Let me know if you've made these patterns, or if you have any other recommendations for some fun, maybe transition pieces, spring to summer. This one I've had in my library since last summer, and I do have the yarn for it. The PetiteKnit's Anker summer shirt. I think it's a fairly popular pattern, and it looks so classic. I got yarn from the shop in Hamilton, Hand Knit Yarn Studio, and I have like a blue color, and I also have a black. So yeah, that's coming up soon. And then the pink elephant yarn that I purchased from, again, that was my Canadian wool clause in my last my last relapse over not buying any yarn, that I got from Rosebud Fiber Mill. I was thinking I would make, now it's not really seasonally appropriate, but the Pink Memories sweater by Isabelle Kraemer. I have actually made this sweater before. I made it in alpaca, and I liked making it. Yeah, it fit really well, and it's got this like little peekaboo pocket in it. So I was thinking about that. And last but not least, for the that pink yarn, I was thinking I could also make the DRK Everyday Sweater, right? That might be good use of that bright pink yarn. I'm not sure. If you have any suggestions, again, please put them in the comments if you so desire, and please stay in touch with me. Again, this comments, I try to do my best to respond to every comment, and also like it, at least give it a heart. And I appreciate the engagement on this channel very much. So I think that's everything I wanted to discuss today. Again, I know I was a little distracted, but all will work out. That's just how this life goes. So I'm gonna bid you adieu. I do have a 4:20. My shuttle will be picking me up tomorrow at 4:30 a.m. So I need to be awake. I will set my alarm for 3:20 a.m. And yeah, for you and for me, wishing everyone friendly skies until I see you next time. Bye-bye.